instead of just memorizing why these two expressions are the same, let me try to explain some of the intuition behind why, in fact, they are. We notice that this first expression here is basically a fraction of fractions. We have a fraction in the numerator and we have a fraction in the denominator. Before we move on, I want to quickly review this right here, this format. And all I'm trying to say here is that if we take some fraction and we use some number x divided by some number y, we can also rewrite that as x times 1 over y. So if this looks strange to you or unfamiliar, I'd recommend looking at the properties of real numbers and investigating that further before you move on. But let's just do a quick visual representation of this here. Let's use x equals 2 and y equals 3. We can, according to this statement up here, we can actually substitute our numbers and we get this down here. And let's visually check that out. Let's draw a candy bar of some type and let's break it into 3 equal parts, approximately equal. So this first expression, 2/3, is saying that you have 2 out of 3. You have 2/3. And the second expression here, 2 times 1/3, is saying that you have 2 1/3. So you have 1 1/3 and 2 1/3. So they're the same. They're equal. Hopefully that makes sense. Just a quick little review. Now, going back up here, we'll come back to this at the end. This fraction will come back at the end. It'll loop in. But using this format here, let's rewrite this expression. So we're going to, our x is really a over b, so we'll leave that there, and we'll rewrite this denominator portion as 1 over c over d. So we'll do a over b times 1 over c over d. Now we notice that we still have a fraction in the denominator, and we can actually rewrite this as, using this format again, leave the c and multiply it by 1 over d. So doing that, we have the we have the a over b times 1 over c times 1 over d. And we can keep going, and we can really say that this 1 over d, there's really a 1, it's really 1 over d, because again, if we take this 1 over c part, and we can really say that it's really multiplied by a 1 over d, so we'll rewrite that to stay organized. A over b times 1 over c times 1 over d. And here's the interesting part. If we take this 1, let's substitute it for d over d. And why did I do that? Any number divided by itself is 1, basically. I think you would agree with that. You can try it yourself and choose any numbers you want, and basically you will get 1. And visually we can show this. Let's take a candy bar again, and let's break it into 4 different pieces. And let's say that we use d. We'll substitute 4 for d. We break this candy bar into 4 different pieces. Well, if you break the candy bar into 4 different pieces and you eat all 4 pieces, how many candy bars have you eaten? I know that sounds pretty elementary, but nevertheless it's still important to understand that concept. You've eaten 1 full candy bar. So this d over d here is representing, you have d over d pieces. In this case we have 4 over 4 pieces of the candy bar, so we have 1 full candy bar over 1d, which in our case is 1/4, 1/4. So we'll visually draw that here approximately. So that's 1d, right? So we have one candy bar, we have 4 out of 4 pieces would go over this one piece, this 1D, 4 times, right? We have 4 1/4, we have 4 quarters goes into 1 quarter or 1/4 4 times. Therefore, we can actually just take this here and simplify it to D. So really 1 over D, we can just say it's equal to D. So moving all of this down here and rewriting this portion as just D, we get A over B by 1 over C by D. And if you'd like, you can put that there. Okay, and then we just multiply across. And we just do our normal multiplication with fractions, which is pretty easy, right? And we end up with A times D over B times C. And if you notice, these two are the same thing. So hopefully, instead of just memorizing this fact here with rational expressions and division, hopefully you can kind of see some of the intuition behind why that is. And if you try this several times using different examples, this whole process, if you try it several times repetitively over and over again, you'll kind of start just getting an intuitive sense behind it. When you look at these things, you'll be able to very quickly remember that you can rewrite it. You can rewrite from this format to this format very quickly, and not only will it be quick, but you'll also have a better understanding of why those two are the same.